Nipsey Hussle had a vision for South L.A. It all started with it. At the age of 19, Nipsey Hussle took the money he earned hustling on the streets of South Los Angeles and bought a plane ticket to his father's homeland, a tiny country in eastern Africa that fought a brutal war to secure its place in the world as Eritrea. That trip split his life into before and after, from a young man steeped in gang culture with aspirations of being a rapper, to a community activist with an entrepreneurial spirit who earned a Grammy nod. Hussle, born Ermias Askidam, stayed in Eritrea for 3 months in 2004. He made meaningful. When he returned to LA, his eyes opened to the way things could be. The world was suddenly. Eritrea had a powerful effect on Hussle, and Hussle had an equally powerful effect on Eritrea. If you don't know your full-throttled history, the whole story of how you came to where you are, it's kind of hard to put things together, Hussle said in a that filled in a blank. When he died last week, Eritrea's Minister of Information Yemenaji Meskel offered his condolences on Twitter. In cities from Los Angeles is home to one of the largest enclaves of Eritrean immigrants in the United States, and they have watched Hussle, or Ermias, as they call him, grow from a precocious child into an influential young man. On Sunday, Hussle's death has left many in mourning. But for lots of a broom-shaped country the size of Tennessee, Eritrea is home to about 5 million people in the Horn of Africa. It's a former Italian. Between 1961 and 1991, hundreds of thousands of Eritreans fled the country, planting roots in North America, Europe, and the Middle East. One of them was Hussle. Today, Askidam remains a familiar face and a pillar of his local Eritrean community. He and Hussle's mom. Hussle lived with his mother and, later, his grandmother. Still, in ways large and small, Hussle helped Eritreans feel seen. Every year, it's kind of disappointing that nobody knows about my country and the beauty it holds, the people and the culture and all the traditions that we have, she said. Some in the first generation, tired of explaining their heritage, have given up. They simply say, it's kind of hurtful, Yetigo said. We had a 30-year, but Hussle unabashedly embraced his Eritrean heritage. On Twitter last year, he was able to proudly say it to the world, Yetigo said. He held so much. Sium Kidane, an Eritrean Ethiopian who goes by DJ Axabella, said Nipsey had some songs where he talked about being proud of where you're from and having an awareness and connection to your background. That was something that was very, very necessary, that was reflected throughout his music, he said. For the first generation of Eritrean Americans, who are millennials, Hussle meant even more. They shared his aspirations. Hussle showed that you don't have to be a surgeon to be successful, said Aet Weld Michael, a professor of African and world history at Queen's University in Ontario. Juliana Mikhail, another first-generation Eritrean American, from Mid-City LA, said Hussle taught the children of African immigrants that, with one foot tied to their Eritrean tradition and customs, and another steeped in American life, they could forge their own path. It's not easy making a name for yourself and your family back home, she said. Creating a seat. Mikhail found herself touting Hussle's rise to fame last year when explaining to her parents why she wanted to shift careers. For years, Mikhail followed her parents' dreams for her to become a nurse. But one day in late, look at Ermias and what he created for himself, the brand, the name, everything, she told her parents. That's a shot 1 in a million, she recalled her parents saying. It doesn't happen. Hussle returned from Eritrea to South Los Angeles in 2004 with seeds planted in his head of communities run by residents. He plodded along. To make money, he started out selling socks and t-shirts. He started making. Then, with his team, Hussle created the record label All Money In and signed a deal with Atlantic Records, but still owned the master copies to his music. He also opened it. He always said take the stairs, his brother Samuel said. The bigger picture was to, and eventually build a residential and retail complex there that would be the catalyst for revitalizing his neglected neighborhood. Last year, Hussle returned to Eritrea with his father and brother. Over the years, the country has struggled to find a way to rebuild, said Gurme Negash, a professor of English and African literature at Ohio University. The current government, the Eritrean diaspora, is highly divided, he said. But its members have the history of our country, our struggle, and the underdog story, the resilience of the people, and our integrity is something that I feel pride in being attached to, Hussle said in. Last year, Hussle, his brother, and his father visited historical landmarks in Eritrea, met the country's president, and broke bread with Hussle's grandmother. Much of the time, I want to say how gratifying it is for us to be able to come home and be able to have a country that we can call our own. Where the leaders, his legacy lives on from the streets of South L.A. to those of Eritrea. Last year, Mikhail, the aspiring publicist, visited Eritrea shortly after Hussle had spent 3 weeks there. As she enjoyed Nipsey. It rolled off the tongue. The youth, inspired by Nipsey Hussle, incorporated his name into their native language of Tigrinya. It's slang for homie, not just a typical homie, said Kadane, the DJ. It's someone that
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park,